the two words that you said there, that just is the essence of this work, is soul essence. Soul essence. Because I know that a lot of listeners will be hearing you speak right now and like fully agreeing, but then feeling like, but how? How do I do that? What is my essence? Like how do I just offer what is uniquely mine? And that is the thing. It's not your personality. It's not your collection of experiences. It's not who you are in this lifetime. That is your innate wisdom as a healer. It comes through spirit. It comes through soul. You were encoded with it at your time of incarnation. When you were born, you already had this wisdom from your previous lifetimes. If you are feeling the pull to heal or to be of service in some way in this lifetime, you've done it all before. You've lived the life as the priestess, the mystic, the magician, like you've done it all before. And it's a coding that is pulsing through the essence of who you are. And when you connect to soul, you feel that wisdom come back online. When you allow your voice to open, you will allow the language of that soul to come through. You allow the song of the soul to come through. And it is in that it's beyond authenticity, because it's the pure fabric of who you are as a soul and the reason why you chose to incarnate now as a soul. That is what longs to come through your sessions. That's what longs to come through your work as in service.
Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you once again. Today, I have a brand new guest to introduce you to. Her name is Rhiannon Heins, and she's an intuitive channel, a best-selling author, an energy worker, and she is the founder of Intuitive Rebirth Energy Work Method. Her mission is to empower healers to step into their power as high-earning, transformational energy workers. And I think that's extremely well needed at this time. Rhiannon, so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing? Because it's very early for you today.
Hey, Nicole. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm in Australia, so it is 6:30 in the morning, but I'm an early riser, so it's all good. But yeah, it's so great to be here.
It's nice to be up early in the day and catch the energies before they're getting all muddled and infused with all the chaos that come.
Yeah, it's very still right now.
Yeah, so whereabouts in Australia are you?
So I am about as far away from the rest of the world as you can get. I'm on the southwest coast. So there's a city called Perth.
Yes, I have family there.
Yeah, so I'm like 4 hours south of Perth. I am in the middle of the forest.
Got you. Okay. Well, I know I've got some Australian listeners, so they're going to be excited to have you here on the show. And you're doing this really cool method of intuitive rebirth. It's a method that you're taking people through, training them in, and it's something that you channeled, right? Is it something that you downloaded?
Yeah, exactly. It's what we do it's an energy work modality on paper. So like everyone loves to feel safe with having a certificate and feeling accredited. So it is that on the surface, just as a breathwork modality or Reiki or whatever else you do as a healer. It is that, but really it's not that at all. It is that on paper, but really it isn't that at all. Because I know, and I know that you probably know this, Nicole, and so many of your listeners, that when we're in our full authenticity as healers, we're not doing anyone's modality. We're not doing anything that someone taught us. We're letting all of that go, and we're just with spirit. And when we're in that full place of trust and surrender, that's when we go full power in our work as healers. And that's when what our clients receive is exactly what they need. So what intuitive rebirth is like, it's a blueprint, it's a system that gets all of these aspects online: the ability to channel, the ability to lean into trust, the ability to let your mind go, the ability to guide somebody into their body so that they can be with you in the session. So we actually don't teach hardly any techniques. It's pretty much a technique-free modality, but it is so powerful because, especially on our retreats, we're seeing a room full of people go full power in their own unique way. And that's why the work goes so deep.
I'm a huge fan of everything you just said. A huge fan, because I think that is something that, one, it's something I've always leaned into, and it's not something that I don't know. I've always been someone who wants to create my own method, techniques, experience, whatever you want to call it. I've never been interested in learning someone else's technique. I'm like, I want to discover what comes through me when I am whether I'm in my flow, when I'm in my highest state of authenticity, like you said, and really allowing that energy to come through. Because like you said, I really do believe there's a blueprint for it in all of us. It's just a matter of tapping into it and unlocking it. And unlocking it really is unlocking it from this idea or concept that it has to be taught to you from someone else. And it's not to say that there aren't things worth learning from other people here, because I've learned different things from other people. But I love how you really bring forward that when someone is truly in their highest capacity and doing the work, they're doing their own healing with someone that is uniquely them.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, the modalities, the things that people are learning from others are profound. They're getting us ready. They're the download of different coding, a different aspect of trust, ability to accept that you are indeed a healer, the ability to trust yourself to place your hands upon someone's body. Like all these different techniques that people are learning from others are coming at the perfect time to get the exact initiation. But then what I'm finding is that healers then, or anyone in service, in true service, gets to the point where it's like, okay, I've got all these tools in my tool belt, but who am I? Who am I? Like, and then they're trying to find this kind of system where they're layering all these techniques and methods together, and it's feeling clunky. And then the invitation here in intuitive rebirth is it's like, okay, well, you've been initiated with all of these techniques. They're deep within you. You know the essence of them. You've been encoded with their brilliance. So now what if you just let it all go? What if you just let that all go? Then what's going to come through isn't like this system where you're sandwiching all the techniques together. It's way beyond that. It's everything and nothing all at once. And there's no mind. And that's why it's so beautiful.
It's so important what you're saying right now. I hope you're really understanding how powerful this is, because I've had clients and still have clients to this day who I'm, guiding them to develop their own like method, their own healing, like even just their own service, whatever that's going to be. And it's going to encompass a whole bunch of different things, and that it's okay. It doesn't have to be the exact thing that you learned from this person to have that skill, or this person to have that skill. You can now take all of that wonderful learning and now infuse your essence into it. And what is birthed into reality from that? Like, what is the hybrid, so to speak, of that service? And I think that, it's interesting because I was literally just listening to a podcast this morning while I was at the gym, and just this idea of talking about like how, if you're going to do everything like everyone else, you're not going to be, okay, how do I say this? One, it's going to be a lot harder to make money because you're doing what everyone else is doing. But it's also about like, it's hard to really stand out and really offer your truth. And the people who are willing to be brave enough to step out and really offer whatever is unique to them are the ones who eventually do very well if they have the confidence and the motivation and the discipline to keep going with it, is to really set themselves apart. Because I think in this world, what everyone's looking for is authenticity. Everyone is just tired of living in a world that feels very fake and very fabricated. And if you're willing to kind of step out and do something uniquely that's yours and stand behind it, that's a true gift. And that's a modeling of behavior and just soul essence that I think a lot of people are looking for without them maybe even realizing it, but feel very pulled to when they do see it.
Yeah, for sure. And the two words that you said there, that just is the essence of this work, is soul essence. Soul essence. Because I know that a lot of listeners will be hearing you speak right now and like fully agreeing, but then feeling like, but how? How do I do that? What is my essence? Like how do I just offer what is uniquely mine? And that is the thing. It's not your personality. It's not your collection of experiences. It's not who you are in this lifetime. That is your innate wisdom as a healer. It comes through spirit. It comes through soul. You were encoded with it at your time of incarnation. When you were born, you already had this wisdom from your previous lifetimes. If you are feeling the pull to heal or to be of service in some way in this lifetime, you've done it all before. You've lived the life as the priestess, the mystic, the magician, like you've done it all before. And it's a coding that is pulsing through the essence of who you are. And when you connect to soul, you feel that wisdom come back online. When you allow your voice to open, you will allow the language of that soul to come through. You allow the song of the soul to come through. And it is in that it's beyond authenticity, because it's the pure fabric of who you are as a soul and the reason why you chose to incarnate now as a soul. That is what longs to come through your sessions. That's what longs to come through your work as in service. And once that essence does come through, people can feel it. The soul in your clients is awakened by the soul essence in you as a healer, and they remember and they are free. Your family start to be awakened into their soul essence just by your frequency of having that aspect of you activated. And then your family remember and they are free. And it starts to happen everywhere you go. You become this like pulsing current, this pulsing vibration of like soul truth, and everybody feels it.
I agree with you. And I'm curious to know, what have you seen? Like, what kind of transformations have you been witness to with the people who've gone through your program when they are allowing that part of them to be set free?
Oh, it's like the most humbling, the most beautiful thing to witness in the world. There is nothing like it. And I'm going to speak specifically now about this incredible woman who's like full power right now. Like she's doing profound work as a healer. And in March, so this was literally in March, she was like, Rhiannon, I think I want to come on the retreat, but I have to say, I'm kind of a muggle, like the non-wizard people of Harry Potter. And I said to her, well, only the witches and wizards use the word muggle. The muggles don't actually use that word. And she was like, right, I'm coming. So she came, and she is a dental hygienist, and like very strict Asian family, really like ticking all the boxes in society, but feeling so suffocated. And there was a day on that retreat where I saw the switch happen. I saw her surrender. I saw her give it all over. I saw her reach the breaking point of breaking points, where she just did not want to fight anymore, where she didn't want to push and try anymore. I saw her just literally collapse, body, soul, emotions, and just tears and tears. And what I witnessed was the moment where she just gave it all to God. She gave it all to the divine. And then literally within 10 minutes of that, she was dancing, like she was doing this dance. And the dance wasn't for anyone. It was the dance of who she had remembered that she was. And she was doing this dance, and she was like sending her dance all around the room with her hands. And it's like she was there, like this priestess was born. And then from that day onward on the retreat, she was doing work on the other people, on the other participants. She was singing, she was channeling, she was just allowing this essence of her to come through. And I saw her very recently, and I was like, what the hell, you're so different since March. And she's just like, yeah, I'm just myself, just myself. And this is what we're seeing over and over and over again, because like there's no parameters on this work. There's no wrong, there's no right. It's like if you show up from your heart with a longing to serve, you're gonna have that breakthrough.
Oh, you could like feel the energy. Like it was like I was there with you watching her go through that. I really relate to that in a sense of, lately over the last year, I've been working with plant medicines, psilocybin and ayahuasca. And it's been like a gradual, opening up and things. But in the last, I guess, 8 months or so, I've really had a next level Kundalini activation or awakening into my own goddess energy. And it's one of those things where now it's so palpable within me. I can tap into it like the snap of my fingers. But it came through like, when you were saying where she was just dropped to her knees and she was like, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to fight, was a very similar feeling that I had in May when I did my second ayahuasca journey just recently, where I didn't know what my intention was going to be going into it, which usually I have my intention before my ceremony, like really thought out and well, like nourished and nurtured. And as I sat down to prepare myself for the ceremony, all of a sudden I just felt all of this emotion come up, and I started saying out loud, I don't want to control anymore. I'm so tired. I just don't want to control anymore. And I just gave it all up to Mother Ayahuasca. I said, I'm giving it up to you. Wherever you want to take me, whatever you want to do with me, I'm going to follow you. And if it means I'm going to throw up all night, I'm going to throw up all night. And if it means I'm going to dance, I'm going to dance. Whatever it is, I'm going to go with you. And it was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had to this date of all of my experiences. And I've had a couple of ones that have been quite profound, not always on plant medicine. But this one took me out of the matrix, and I went into the vault of my own programs and was able to remove programs that I was no longer in alignment. I was like, I don't want these anymore. And I put in new ones that were the exact opposite. And literally, like, I remember being in that whole state of being in like that just absolute bliss of, this is me. This is my power. I can do anything. Like, like there's nothing that can stop you or hold you back. And that that's what it feels like when you've got that goddess energy moving through you. Is like you are an unstoppable force, and there is nothing that you cannot do if you truly want to do it. And not from this place of achievement, but of this place of total embodiment. And, you know, and I mentioned this a couple times on my show, but I can say this with 100% certainty now that all of those new programs are in effect in my life now. And it's only been a couple of months. And I'm like, whoa, this is so crazy to see this new reality. But this is the power of what your client went through, of completely surrendering. And this is why, and this is such a powerful statement to even say for me at this stage of my game, is because I totally resisted surrender. I thought surrender was weakness all of my life growing up. And it wasn't until I hit my early 30s that I started to learn to reframe my relationship with the feminine and what it means to actually surrender. And I would definitely, without a doubt, especially after hearing you say this, what you experienced with one of your clients on your retreats, is that after my ayahuasca ceremony, the power of surrender and to give it up to that feminine energy, right? Because it's an unknown energy. It's a mystery. It's like, and it's not that men don't have that power, but this is a different kind of power than we're used to down here. And when you surrender to that, there is just nothing like that feeling.
It's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I love that you're working with Mother Ayahuasca. That she too is like such a profound initiator and teacher for me. She's like shamanic boot camp for me. And but that medicine frequency that you're forced to surrender unto when you go into ayahuasca, unless you want to have a really terrible night, um, that energy that you're forced to surrender to, there's like an intelligence in the room, right, when you go into like an ayahuasca ceremony, everyone uses the toilet in perfect harmony and perfect synchronicity. There's this intelligence in the room, and everyone surrenders to the intelligence. The shamans surrendered to that intelligence, trusting that everyone will need the toilet at the right time, that everyone will clear in perfect grace. And there is an intelligence that happens when we do our events. There is a medicine frequency that we are suspended in. It's like from the moment we walk into the retreat center, it's there. There's like a current, there's a medicine in the space. And we're not on plant medicine. It's just there's this energy medicine. And everyone is suspended in it. So when you go to sleep at night, your dreams, you're working on the other people in your dreams. There was a gal who was on very heavy medication, like antipsychotic medication, and she religiously had been taking it for years. And then one day at the retreat, there was this huge clearing, a huge clearing of what I would say as entity. And then when I spoke to her later, she said she'd forgotten to take it that morning. It was the first time in years. So that's the intelligence of the space, right? And it allowed her to have that break, to really feel, to process, to move the energy. And my beautiful partner, who, I use the word assist, but what she does is not assisting; it's beyond words. But who I do the retreats with, we were speaking at the last retreat. We're like, what is this energy? What is this medicine frequency? And it was like, it's like the frequency of the collective of humanity that is rising and breaking free. It is like, if you could put that as a medicine frequency, that's what we're suspended in. And we just, as space holders, as facilitators, we just surrender into it so deeply with such trust that it reminds me of ayahuasca. It reminds me of ayahuasca ceremonies, because the love is the medicine, and we just give ourselves to that energy of love, that energy frequency, and we just know that everything is taking place in perfect order. And it's that surrender that keeps upgrading us as space holders, that keeps taking the work to the next level. It's so fun.
That's so powerful. I I know that there's going to be so many people out there so happy that you're speaking of it in this way. And I say that because as someone who really advocates for plant medicine, if that's something you're called to, and I'm sure you feel similarly, I also know that we're capable of all of it without plant medicine. I don't think you need it in order to achieve the states. And you saying that is proof of that there's a way to create that medicine frequency. And I love that term so much, because that really talks about that frequency that is so, it's beyond healing. It is like a rebirth. It is like a rebirth, because when you heal, it's almost like you're rebirthing your cells. It's not just regeneration. It feels more like an absolute rebirth, like rising from the
Yeah, and
ashes.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's why my husband, he came up with the name Intuitive Rebirth. I will give him
Oh,
credit.
good for him.
He reminds me every single day. But the reason that Intuitive Rebirth is the name is, it's like, on a personal level, when you're into entering this work, when you're doing this kind of deep work, whether it's through us or through another super embodied kind of free healer, when you're doing this work, you're rebirthing. You're rebirthing. When you're doing plant medicine, you're rebirthing. But what is happening on the planet right now is a collective rebirth. Everyone's giving up to God. Everyone is giving over the struggle. Everyone wants that surrender. And we're in a collective rebirth while we're in these real personal journeys of death and letting go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how like you were kind of guided to me to be on this podcast as well, because the rebirth is something I've been talking about a lot this year. And I agree. And I feel like we are collectively going through varying forms of rebirth, depending on like what stage. But it's all within that kind of realm. And I don't think it's any mistake that it's come after such a traumatic global experience that all of us went through in 2020, regardless of whatever your position was on the whole thing. It's like it created such a schism, within the collective. It created such a tear that the only way to truly heal is to surrender and to let go and to stop fighting. Just as like you said, your client, like stop fighting, just like let it all go. And I think that in many ways we were shown even on a very personal level, to the smallest little detail in our lives, where maybe we've needed to let go, where we've needed to stop trying so hard or pushing for something that just isn't working for us anymore, and surrender to the mystery of what does work for us.
Yeah. The last few years, like, obviously they've been crazy for everybody, but they've been beautiful and necessary as well. They've been beautiful and necessary. Like, I don't feel that the planet has got like darker. I just feel that when something is ready to heal, when an aspect of self or the collective is ready to heal, it comes into our awareness. It comes into our awareness. So right now, so much on the planet, so much on this earth realm is coming right up into our faces. And it's like confronting, because it's like, whoa, is the earth getting more effed up? Or like what? But it's always been. It's always had that shadow. It's always had these things lurking in the background that needed to be healed. And it doesn't matter what perspective you're coming from, as you say, when you listen to these words. But now the earth, the humanity, the earth realm, it's changing, it's shifting. And that is why that which needs to be healed is coming up into the forefront of the psyche of humanity. The broken systems that are keeping people trapped in lives that are where they cannot flow, in lives that are rigid and stuck, they are coming up into the surface to be healed. People's lives where they cannot surrender, where they're stuck in jobs that feel unfulfilling, all of that has come up to be healed. And in 2022, last year here in Australia, the mandating pushed people out of their jobs, like en masse, people who didn't want to take that thing. They were pushed out of their jobs, and some people stayed, and some people left. And for those people that left, I know so many of them, and they're like, what a blessing. What a blessing, because now I'm doing this, now I'm doing this. And it's been this opportunity to just feel the contraction of what is broken in this world, to feel the contraction of it all the way to the tipping point to then be exploded into the expansion. And yeah, it's the rebirth of the earth. It's the rebirth of everybody. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost like the way I see it, the way I'm being shown it as even as you speak, it's like that whole global event that we all went through created such a tear and such a separation through the polarities, okay, that it was almost like an earthquake. It's almost like the plates below shifted, were being pulled apart so much that the whole earth opened up. And because of that, the shadow was released. And the shadow was released so that we could finally look at it and start to heal it. And it's like they say, you know, if you want to be healed, you have to allow yourself to be cracked open to let the light in. And I feel like that's kind of what happened through the beginning phases and throughout of 2020, as painful as it was for so many people to go through. It's like, it was a blessing in many ways. And I think even I would say the deep polarity that we experience in our world because of it, and how polarized people got, in a way, it really was a blessing, because it allowed us to get so far apart that something had to break open and show us what needed to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that analogy. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I feel that the separation, as you say, the polarity of people becoming just so triggered, I guess, so triggered by the opposing viewpoints. It's all necessary to bring us into unity. It's all necessary to see the truth of, well, actually, what you're wanting with your viewpoint is to protect and love yourself and your family. And what you're wanting from your viewpoint is to protect and love yourself and your family. And it's like, in that there has been a coming together, And I do feel that no matter what side of the spectrum people have sat, everybody is feeling that. Everybody is feeling that. And that is the essence of love. And that is why so many people now are moving even deeper into this healing work. People that would never have done breathwork journeys or ayahuasca, they're looking for this work. They've felt love. They've felt love. They've been cracked open, as you say, and they're feeling love. And this seed is looking for more and more and more.
Yeah. And I can say without a doubt, with absolute certainty, the amount of the shift in our level of consciousness, the awakening that has occurred because of it, if you're not seeing it, there is something within you that doesn't want to see it, you know, and that's something to even ask for yourself, because I see it so much. I have never seen this level of awakening. And of course, it's going to be different on different levels for everyone, depending on like where they are in their journey. But like, the fact that there's certain vernacular that's being used now that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you would have never heard in the mainstream, never heard, you know? And like now it's just like, it's a thing. It's so mainstream. And so there is a shift and the energy is there and people are awakening. And again, the journey is very unique and individual. And as you go back to what were you speaking about in connecting with that soul essence again, understanding that everyone's journey and how they reconnect to that is going to be uniquely theirs. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It is just your way of doing it. And I think that, for me, I just absolutely seen this huge awakening. And even when we talk about 2022, I'd love for you to share with us your book, The Keepers of the Light Codes. You released that book last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. But it just, if I'm totally honest, Nicole, it feels like an eternity ago. It feels ancient. Like,
I
what is
know.
going on with time?
I know.
Yeah, I watched this book in October last year. I channeled it in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So it 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 feels like someone else channeled it. It feels like someone else released it. That's, I guess, what is happening in this rebirth of self that is so continual. But when I read the book, because it is channeled and I feel so different to the person who channeled it. I just feel the essence of spirit in it, which is so beautiful because I don't feel attached to this book at all now. It's just like my body was used to write it in 2021. My body was used to publish it in 2022. And then spirit has taken it from me and just given it. Now it's its own being. But the book shares a very similar message to intuitive rebirth in a different sense. It's not just for healers, it's for everybody. But the message in that book is so needed. And it's the reminder of the mastery that already exists within. Because I feel that, or I know that humanity for so long, especially those of us who have been on this path, we've been looking to like better ourselves, um, to do as much healing as possible, as much transformation work as possible, and kind of pushing our healed, whole, complete self into this future timeline, this future version of us that doesn't exist right now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the channeled message in the book is the reminder to that linear time is not the truth. We're not in that 3D time paradigm anymore. It's all happening now. And because the collective consciousness is rising so much, time is changing, and we can access any version of ourselves now. The most whole, the most complete, the most masterful, the most healed. It is all now. And there is a choice that we can make to choose that now. So the channeled messages in it, the channeled lessons in it are the assistance with that choice, the assistance with clearing anything that stands in the way of that healed whole realization of self now. And yeah, the lessons are kind of working on the fabric of self that resists that notion, the pattern self, the shadow self, the pain body. It's working on all those different fabrics of self so that at the end it's like, okay, I'm here, incarnated at this time now, with this mission now, because I have everything that is needed for humanity now. So it's time to get over everything that I've ever thought I needed to do, and it's time to be all of that now. So that's the Keepers of the Light Codes. And yeah, it's found its own path now. It did really well when it first released, and it continues to just tick over doing really well. And I feel that that's just a testament to how much this message is needed on this planet right now.
How did that message start to come through for you? Like before you knew you were going to be writing a book, or did you know that you were going to be writing a book?
Yeah, I have a very strong, we're all channels. I have a very strong clairaudient channel, which is just really my higher mind, because I'm more and more just live through my heart, and I have crystal clear thought form from spirit. And that's something that we can all do, by the way. I'm not saying that that's a unique skill, but it's just something that I spend a lot of time cultivating.
Mhm.
um, and Spirit said, you're going to write a book. So I was like, cool, this is really exciting. So I kept sitting down to try and write the book, and it just like wasn't coming through. And I feel that I was taken through a boot camp to get ready to write that book. And the boot camp was that prior to writing it, I had my channeled, the times where I would channel, the times that I would do my spiritual practice, I had them pigeonholed into these little kind of moments in the day. And then when my two babies were born, so they're 2 years apart. So when they were like 2 and a newborn, all of those times were stripped back. I didn't have anything. I was just completely immersed into this really intense motherhood. And I felt like I lost this version of myself. And I was just like being swallowed up by nappy change, breastfeeding, the intensity of a toddler. And I was just like, oh. And this was the boot camp. This was the boot camp, was the surrender to that, the surrender to the chaos, the being in my heart in the chaos, the leaning into love in the chaos. And then I started to really expand into my life in this chaos. And then in that, I was like, okay, I don't need these pigeonholed moments of time to channel. I don't need to light candles and meditate anymore. This is my life. This is the practice. This incarnation is the practice, all of it, each waking moment, each sleeping moment. And once I had integrated this lesson, then the book just started to like pour through.
That's a big lesson,
Yeah.
because ultimately all of the mastery and the work that you did was for it to just become you, like you become it become you. And it's just part of you. And you don't need to do all the ceremonies and all the prep and all of that to activate it, to open it up, to tune into it. That's the whole point of rituals and mastery, and which is something I'm going to go into on the next show, is all about rituals and the importance of it. But it allows you to get to that point where it's your autopilot now.
Yeah. And that's where the magic is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're being guided to remember. Because once we can feel the divine in any moment, in every moment, and we do that just by remembering our heart, getting out of that thinking mind and just remembering the heart and just feeling that pulse of love that is our essence, then it starts to come through our work. It comes through our parenting. It comes through our smile while we're grocery shopping. And it's like, I know that it is impossible to be that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we realize we can be that by choice, on demand, at any time, it changes life. It changes the experience of life. And the whole day becomes ritual. The whole day becomes ritual. My whole day is filled with ceremony and ritual. And it's like how I drink my tea, how I play with my children, how I go for a walk. Like it's all ritual. And I'm like an open channel in all of it pretty much now. And I only got that peace when I surrendered so deeply to the imperfection and the chaos of life exactly as it is.
And there it is again, surrendering to the chaos, surrendering.
Yeah.
The chaos is that feminine energy. It's that mystical energy that has, well, from our perspective, from our human linear perspective, has no rhyme or reason of what it's doing, but it's working in absolute divine perfection. And that is such an important thing. I literally just had a call with a client. I know she's going to know who you are. And we were just talking about this because we're preparing her for the retreat coming up in I have a retreat called the Forbidden Journey, where and we're gonna be doing that here in Colorado. And it is we're just talking about the importance of surrendering to the chaos and allowing yourself to be spun up in it, and go through that churning process, go wherever it's going to take you. Like I said, even when I go back and reference that ayahuasca moment right before I started my ayahuasca ceremony, and she was speaking to me already, I knew it. She was already in me, energetically she was there. And for me to realize, like, I am giving my whole self to you, all of it, like not just a part of it, all of it. And that is a huge lesson that a lot of us have to go through in learning to surrender to the chaos and the mess and whatever it's going to be, and let it have its way with us sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the hardest piece to get. But once there is surrender to what is, like complete surrender to what is, that's when the miracles come in.
Mm-hmm.
Because often in the chaos, there's something that's challenging us. There's something that is like uncomfortable in our life. Like, so for me, the intensity, I need to sneeze. It's gone.
Energy wants to
For me,
move. Let it move.
for me, the intensity of motherhood has always been where I'm sure every mother that's listening can relate to this, where the greatest amount of like resistance and surrender comes in, resistance and surrender, because there's so much love in the children, but they're so intense. And when I have resisted them, that's when their needs become almost more intense. They become more chaotic. They become more wild. When I surrender fully to them and the perfection of their little emotional bodies, it's like they come into a state of calm. And then when I really got that, then this angel appeared in my life who's like our live-in nanny. And it's like spirit was never going to give me a live-in nanny until I stopped resisting the chaos. And that's the miracle that came in from my surrender. And we're all being guided on a path that is so spectacular, where we thrive, where we're abundant, we're in service, where we're living in love and joy. We're being guided. That's our natural trajectory. That is the path that we are all being guided on. But along that path, we are being shown our greatest lessons, and we are being shown that first we have to surrender. And then every time we fully let go, a miracle comes in. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the journey of this path. And yeah, that this is, I guess, a beautiful invitation to your listeners is like, where is the challenge now? Where is the part of your life that's like, you're just waiting for it to crack open. You're waiting for it to move. You're waiting for change. It's like, what if you just give yourself to it? If you just give yourself to it in full trust that the
Mm-hmm.
miracle is on its way, how would that change your energy? And how would that open you to receive what is already coming to you?
The word submission kept coming up in my client's call. And it's a word that I think also I struggled with, even I struggle with surrender. the S's for whatever reason, which S is a very, feminine letter. And submission, I think, can you submit to the call? Can you submit to the yearning that is like trying to pull you in, but you're like, no, not yet, not this way, a different way, and the best way is the way you probably don't want to do it, is the way you're resisting the most, is probably the best way. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to feel so good in the moment. Sometimes it can, and sometimes it can be really scary, or it can be really sad. It can feel like you're grieving. But it's such a powerful, it's a powerful state to allow yourself to be in. And I had a guest on a few months ago, and she still struggled with the word surrender, and then that's totally fine. It's just, she just doesn't, it doesn't resonate with her, whatever. But the more that I find myself really connecting with my feminine energy and really harnessing the power of it in the way that it was always designed to be and exist in, the more surrender just seems like one of the most powerful states to enter into. And of course, the masculine has an equally powerful energy as well. But the surrender, it just seems so counterintuitive in the way our world is designed and the way we've been programmed. And even when you talk about this idea of motherhood and this, you love the children so much, but it's so intense. It kind of speaks, like when I think about kids, and even when I was a kid and I look at parents these days, and kids just naturally like to go into a state of chaos. They naturally just are in that state, and they're like screaming and they're yelling and they're laughing and they're crying and they're doing all of it, and it's so chaotic. And our first instinct is calm down, settle down, get in order, whereas what if we just really allowed that to be? And what happens after the chaos? Where do they settle after that chaos has been lived through?
Yeah. And also they just surrender to their emotional body.
Yes.
They are not holding on to anything. If they are feeling sad or hurt, they are wailing. Like they are wailing until there is nothing left to wail. If they are angry, my toddler, I say that she looks like the Incredible Hulk. She's like grabbing little chairs and just like throwing them. It's like if she's angry, she's not just angry, she's like Incredible Hulk angry until she's not. She just moves it through her body. And it's like, this is actually the state, like this is the state that heals our bodies instantly. I'm not saying that as adults we should be throwing around our furniture when we feel angry, but if we can learn to master emotional release in a non-projected way as and when something is alive in us, then we would see like a lot less disease, a lot less depression and anxiety. And I feel like the whole reason that there is such deep healing work on the planet needed right now anyway comes right back to that resistance or inability to surrender, even to our own innate energetic emotional state. It's all interwoven. It's all interwoven. We have to surrender not only to what is in our external reality, it's like surrendering to what is in our internal reality. If you wake up and you're just having a really bad day and you're just hard on you're being down on yourself, if you can get your mind into a state of neutrality where your mind is not feeding your emotional body, your mind is a neutral observer and you've still got sadness there, and to just be fully with your sad day, to be like fully allowing yourself to just have your dressing gown on and have a cry rather than feeling like you should be happy, then you move through the sadness. You move through the sadness. And the very key point there was when your mind is the neutral observer, because you could be in that sadness then for months and years on end if you keep feeding that energy with thought. But if it is just what's alive in your body, you surrender to it and you let it have its expression, the energy moves and you move again into a deeper state of surrender.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I was telling my audience back in June, right around the summer solstice, I had been feeling, I had known I had kind of slipped into a depression over the last 6 months prior to that. And, I'd moved through some very difficult and challenging times, and I had to suppress a lot of it. I wasn't allowed to feel all of the sadness and the fear and I don't think I have this. I don't think I have this, and just really wanting to collapse on the floor and cry. And I realized right around that summer solstice, I said, it's time. I'm going to go in my inner child and we're going to just cry and cry and cry. And I'm like, and I'm not going to stop until it's done. And it was,
Yeah.
it was only 2 hours, which, considering like what I felt like I was holding back, it wasn't so bad. But I was like, okay, I'm going to keep crying. I'm like, am I done? No, we're not. Okay, keep going. And then finally I'm like, okay, we're done. And, and it's just kind of like when you talking about like with the children and knowing like there's going to be an endpoint. It's going to release if you are already in tune with understanding. This is just an emotion that needs to move through it. You are not the emotion. You just need to feel the emotion. It's needs to be released. And it's important for us to give ourselves space and time to move through those feelings, because that is what is a lot of the resistance to feeling what you were talking about in the very beginning, of really feeling and allowing that true essence of your soul to move through to the forefront of everything that you are and going to do in this world.
Yeah. And there's no secret sauce. Like, you went into this 2-hour process of crying and crying. It's just everyone has the power to hold themselves like that and to move those big energies. And the only thing that is needed is loving awareness, to just have the awareness to say, I'm sad and I'm going to sit with it and I'm going to cry, and to have the love that is present enough to hold you in it, so you're not judging the tears and you're just letting it move. That is the healing work that heals the planet. And it's like, if anyone goes on our Intuitive Rebirth Instagram, you'll see like these photos of these huge emotional processes. They happen like very quickly. Within a few minutes, people drop into these huge processes. And we get comments all the time, like, what is the technique? Like, how are you breathing? Like, what is it that you're doing? It's like, it's the frequency of the humanity remembering, and it's pure loving awareness. It's pure loving awareness to what is there. And it's that surrender to spirit, to say, okay, spirit, we're doing this work now. We're in it together. Help us. And it's all those pieces coming together that we've spoke about this whole conversation. That's where the healing work is as well. It's all of it. It's all of it.
It's, you know what it is? There is a trust that many of us, despite our resistance to believe so, we've lost a level of trust that we truly are connected to source at all times, that we always have that connection. And the surrender requires you to trust that that is going to move through you and guide you. And because we have this belief that maybe we aren't connected, or maybe we don't fully trust in that process or in that real connection to spirit, that you have to have faith and you have to have trust, because without those two things, you can't let go. You can't surrender. And when you do have those two things, it makes surrender so much easier, because now you know within your deepest core that you are going to be guided in the most highest and beneficial way for your for your journey and your experience. And it's one of those feelings that I want to say you don't just get there over time. It feels to me like it's an instant quantum shift. And it's just all of a sudden something comes online within you and you just know it, and it's there and it's go time and you're ready to let go. And I think it's just a shift in a belief that shifts the frequency that then allows the surrender to happen. And that'll be different for everyone.
Yeah, you're so right. It is all about trust. It is all about trust. But when you're doing it alone, I guess, when you're doing it alone and you don't believe that there is a divine force holding you and guiding you, it's too much. This
Mm-hmm.
life, this existence is too much.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear people say that it's just too much. Of course, it's too much. It's so much to navigate. But I feel that in that moment, when we feel that it's just too much, then we give ourselves to faith, because what do we have to lose anyway? We give
That's it.
ourselves to faith.
You get so tired. You get so
Yeah,
exhausted that you just have no fight left. Like your client was saying, you just have no fight left.
no fight left. You give it all over.
Yeah.
I've got nothing left in me. Like, I don't care anymore. I stop fighting. If there is someone, something there, be with me, be with me. And then as soon as that call is put out to the divine, like a flood of energy through your body, like a wave, just scoops you up. And then, as you say, that's it. It's a moment in time, and it's on. It's on. And it's easy to fall out of trust. It's easy to feel that you're alone, I guess, in this world. But I would say, for me, like, I live so deeply in nature, like so deeply in a very big old forest with no neighbors. And it's like, when I feel the walls of my house, it's all feeling a bit like physical, a bit real, a bit 3D. I'm feeling a bit disconnected. I just get my shoes off. Whether it's raining, even if especially if it's raining, I get my shoes off and I will go walk through that forest with my feet on the mud. And every step that I take brings me into presence, because the sticks hurt my feet. It's cold. I have to walk over bits, and the being barefoot on the earth, you cannot miss the miracles that are everywhere. You cannot miss them. You cannot miss the sound of the birds that seem like they're talking to you. You can't miss, like, the ray of sun as it goes through the rain and it creates just like this masterpiece. You just can't miss the divine when you go for a walk barefoot in nature. And I feel like if we're living more simply, more purely, as we were always intended to be, it's so easy to feel that trust. And in these, like, more mechanical worlds, these, these fake homes, these fake cars, these fake jobs, these fake friends, even, it's easy to fall out of that trust. So then you have to make a more conscious effort. Where do I feel the essence of the divine all around me? And go get yourself there. Go get yourself in the ocean. Go get yourself in the river, in the forest, wherever you need to be. And to me, that is how you can quickly come back into that surrender, because you can see the miracle that is creation, and you can remember in that moment that you're a part of that miracle.
Mm. Yeah, that is so beautiful. I have loved everything that you have shared and that has come through you to the audience today. It's just so magical and so full of love and truth. And I just know my audience is going to be so grateful for you being on the show today, because you've just downloaded so much wisdom and beauty for them to soak up and digest and assimilate for their own purposes and their own journey. Rhiannon, where can my audience find you and connect with you if they'd like to learn more or work with you in any way?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicole. I've loved every moment of this conversation. It's been so beautiful. And if you're feeling the connection and the resonance with me or this work, then head to intuitiverebirth.com or follow us on Instagram, Intuitive Rebirth. And I will let your audience know that our next practitioner training is 7 days, 7-day practitioner training in Bali. And we are going to experience energy healing transformation that we've never seen before, in the most beautiful resort I've literally ever seen. So you can find out all about that on our website.
Oh,
And
Bali
reach
has
out to us if you have any questions.
Bali has a special place in my heart. It's a
Me
beautiful
too.
land. Yeah, it's just a beautiful, lush land. So much beautiful energy there. And so to everyone, if you would like to connect with Rhiannon, I'm going to leave all of the links in the description below. And of course, if you're interested in getting her book, Keepers of the Light Codes, I'll also leave links to that. And for all of you that are interested in joining me on the Forbidden Journey Retreat, if you're ready to surrender and ready to awaken the parts of you that have been trying to come through, but require that beautiful submission and surrender to, as what you call, the medicine frequency. I love that so much, the medicine frequency. Tickets are still available for the retreat in Breckenridge, Colorado. I'd love to have you there. Links for that tickets, to get that ticket, there are links in the description below. Thank you so much again for being on the show. And thank you to my audience. I love you so much. I will be back with you next week, of course, to talk about the power of rituals and how important that is from our ancient civilizations and into today. I love you, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.